What's up? I'm Blimes, and you are listening to the Cabbage's Hip Hop Podcast.
Gary, who do you think you are? Gary.
Yes, Jeff.
Gary, I love this movie. I love this movie.
What a movie, man.
I love this movie. What are we going to do?
What do you mean? What are we going to do?
What are we going to do? I love this movie. How are we going to talk about a movie we love? You know what? I don't care. I loved it, and we'll just figure it out.
I know you guys are used to us talking about movies that we didn't like or we liked grudgingly or liked because of our own perversion and masochism. But we both like this movie. Be Kind, Rewind.
Good.
Be Kind, Rewind. Good movie.
Good movie. I felt good after watching this one, bud.
I love so much about this
What
film.
are your favorite quotes? Hit me with quotes.
Oh, God. There's so many good ones in this. So, Jack Black, when they're shooting RoboCop.
Quote machine.
Anything you say can and will be held against you in the court of RoboCop.
Court of RoboCop. I will live under RoboCop's law. That's fine.
Yasiin Bey, when they're remaking Ghostbusters, says to Jack Black, he says, "I'm Bill Murray, you're everybody else." That was just like Schoolyard when you're playing games at your friends on Schoolyard, and like, I'm Spider-Man, you're the rest of the Avengers.
Man.
Oh my God. And then, oh God, there's that one scene where they're doing Lion King, and they've got Alma there. They've got Alma with them, and she's filming, and Jack Black's just like, "Listen to me. I need you to say the line. I need you to say, 'I will piss on the bones of your ancestors.'" And Yasiin Bey's like, no, don't do that. And then Jack Black's like, no. Like, this is the next Lion King. This is part 2. It's not a movie for kids. And then she says, "Roar, I will piss on the bones of your ancestors." Those are 100%.
I bumped the mic with my hat. I was laughing so hard. And I've seen it twice now. I really loved Danny Glover's line when he's going up the stairs, kind of half-heartedly breaking Mike's heart.
Yeah.
Almost like, I should have done this a long time ago. And he sort of is like, "Why did you do it?" Yada, yada. And in the end, he's walking up and he stops and he goes, "Well, I'm going to go upstairs to hell."
Yeah.
You know? He's just so good in this. I can't wait to talk about it with other people.
Mia Farrow, she has a great line towards the in the third act. She says, like, "Our past belongs to us. We can change it if we want." Just like, glorious optimism.
This movie believes very wholeheartedly in just lying. Just lie. Lie to everybody.
But lie for the best reasons.
Lie for the best reasons. Lie to make it fun. Yeah. It was
all right.
Yeah. Let's
fair warning, everybody. We're in a really good mood. This is a really good episode.
This is essentially the Twilight Zone of episodes for us.
This is going to be a really good episode. We've got a fantastic guest. I think it's going to be a little different for those who are used to just me and Jeff just snarking. This was great. This movie's great. You should watch it. And I look
seal of
forward
approval.
to
the Cabbage's seal of approval.
Yeah, 100%. Let's do it. I am very excited to introduce our guest for today's show. Joining us now is Blimes, also known as Blimes Brixton. This Californian MC and accomplished battle rapper first came to my attention as part of the dynamic rap duo Blimes and Gab. Beyond that, she's a solo artist in her own right, having made music with the likes of Method Man, Felt, and Redinho. Her latest single is called Spin, available via her Peach House imprint, and her new album, Solo Mission, will be out this summer. Hello and welcome to the show.
What's up, everybody? I'm in your ear.
Hello.
It's so good to be here. Gary, Jarf. Can I call you that? Are we close enough yet?
The internet deemed me that a long time ago. You're welcome to it. It's a mantle for all.
It's affectionate. I love it.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting how we can find ways to make nicknames out of a name that is, again, 4 letters. So by the way, it's like, oh, Jeff, how can we make it? Let's just move some letters around and add some new stuff. But speaking of name changes, this movie we're going to talk about today stars Yasiin Bey, formerly known as Mos Def. So I'm just saying, kind of a disclaimer at the very top. If we slip out of it, please don't be mad at us. It will kind of just happen sometimes, but we'll do our best.
The name change affected me personally because Mos Def and Def Jeff were the only rappers that kept something that rhymed with Jeff. So I could make a joke like Mos Jeff and people would think I was clever. Now, Yasiin Jeff, it doesn't roll off the tongue. It just doesn't.
No.
It's not the same.
Fair enough. I mean, like, I begrudge no one their name, so no big deal. No. It just kind of hurt personally.
Yeah. You're jar from both sides.
That's right.
I think it's a forgivable offense when you're watching the version of him that we all knew as Mos Def. And I don't have any authority to say that it's forgivable, but I do feel better about it when I texted you this morning and I was like, I haven't seen, it's so cool to see Mos in this light. And to me, it was just me referencing him at that time as Mos Def. Oh my God, he was one of my favorite rappers, one of my biggest inspirations of all time. Miss Fat Booty was changed my life.
It's a critical jam.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Prior to watching this movie, had you seen much or even some of his acting work before? Had you seen him in any other things that you could recall?
I'm sure that I have. My memory plays terrible tricks on me. I have ADHD and just overflow of information. The hard drive is absolutely at capacity. I'm having to delete things constantly.
Same.
So I'm sure that I have. It's not coming to me off the.
For me, it was honestly Chappelle Show. Was the introduction to Yasiin as actor, and it crossed him over hard for me, even though I did not see this.
Does he have other films
until now
in his resume?
Yeah, what's actually really interesting, like this film is kind of late in his catalog. I went back and I realized there were a number of things I had seen of his, some that I remembered, and then others were like, oh, right, he was in that, was something that came through. So like he was acting sort of early on. Like he was on TV in like the 1990s. He did a 16 episode run on the short-lived Cosby Mysteries series. He was sort of a sidekick character on that. So it's not exactly the thing that, you necessarily include on your resume, but IMDb includes everything.
Right.
It just is what it is. But then, sort of like his music career takes off with Black Star and, and Black on Both Sides, and he continued to pursue acting gigs. So like he's in Spike Lee's Bamboozled, which I think was the first movie I saw him in.
So that would have been the first time I ever saw. I just didn't know that's who that was. Whoa.
Yeah.
So he's one of the
an impressive resume. As I just skim it over here real quick on IMDb, I'm like, oh wow, yeah, Italian Job. I forgot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Brown Sugar.
Brown Sugar, Carmen, Hip Opera. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was one of the ones I remembered him in really well, because Hitchhiker's Guide was just like, it's not him. He's like Ford Prefect, I think, is the character, or he's not Zaphod Beeblebrox. He's Ford Prefect. I read those books when I was a kid. I can't remember anything about them now. I think when you look through that IMDb, he's just made so many interesting choices and took so many different opportunities. Like his character in The Woodsman, which is a very dark film. Like that's a movie about like
never saw that.
Oh, it's dark. It's like Kevin Bacon kind of comes back around in terms of his career. It's a very dark, but it's dark. Okay. It's like that's like the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. You do not want that to be the movie that you're connected to him through, because it is frightening. I'm not even going to say what it's about, but there's trigger warnings all around that thing.
Okay.
But it's like Mos Def has a very Yasiin Bey has a very prominent role in that film, and plays the kind of character that you remember. And then of course, I'm based in New York, Jeff's based in New York. I remember that Yasiin Bey was getting a lot of attention for work he was doing on Broadway and he was doing in theater here. Top Dog Underdog was one of those roles. He did other parts as well, but it was sort of where I sort of recognized, as somebody who appreciated him as a rapper,
right,
that he had really been taking the acting seriously in a way that we didn't necessarily see, or seeing, and also seeing the communities around acting bringing him in a way that wasn't cynical. Because, and you can tell me your thoughts on this, but I oftentimes, and we're this whole season we're talking about rappers in movies and rap in movies. A lot of times they seemed like the choices of including a rapper was to like try to boost the box office somewhat, or try to get the youth audience to come out and see the film. Do you like sort of see this differently, kind of the way he's in this movie, to say how you would see other rappers portrayed on screen or presented on screen?
Definitely. I see authentic love for acting, and I see him authentically meeting the challenge of playing the character that he's been presented. Which I think, and not a small role, and not small piece, not letting much of the persona that we all know as Mos Def, now Yasiin Bey, come through and just be the character, which I thought was he did really, really well. Oh my God. It was so good. But like, I like go crazy when I see rappers in cameos that are not portraying rappers or not portraying themselves. Like seeing Method Man in Garden State.
Sure.
The best part of that film.
Sent me like over the moon. I was just like thrilled and like loved to see him in that tiny little cameo. Right. Huge out of this world life, force and presence. And it just really, that opened my eyes for the ability for rappers to act and play, in different movies. And like that super inspired me when it came to battle rapping, because I was like, wait, like we all can put on a different hat and play somebody else. And that's actually one of the only reasons that I could battle rap, was because I'm not that person at the core. So I really had to act as that fierce, mean ass bitch, like that's
sure.
That's not who I am. So I was seeing, Method Man acting. As I admitted earlier, didn't know Mos Def did so much acting, but it was seeing, other artists step onto the silver screen, but not portraying rappers, that made me be like, okay.
Bey does a thing that I loved in this film, where he was with some really terrific and very leading actors. I mean, Danny Glover's been at that point been in it for a long time. Jack Black, I don't remember exactly where he was in his career at this point, but it was not a small feat to get him in a film.
2008 is a huge year for Jack Black.
Yeah.
Like that's a huge year for Jack Black, and obviously, like there's a lot has happened. I don't mean to interrupt you.
He was pretty famous, like, if not famous.
2008, just for reference, in addition to Be Kind Rewind, is also Tropic Thunder and Kung Fu Panda.
Okay, so yeah, you're in like peak. This is the summer of Jack Black, the Jack Black-assance,
and he's Jack Blacking very hard in this movie.
Hard. And he's a wild Jim Carrey over actor when he's cast for it, especially. And Glover is a very classic sort of like scene stealing gravitas kind of actor to me. And then Bey just kind of played the straight man to them very well and let them do their thing, but was never absent from the scene. He was like not chewing scenery. This was good. Like, excellent work all around by the people who were in it.
It was a certain joy for me to see Mia Farrow in this, because so much of her work I can't watch anymore.
Right.
I don't watch Woody Allen films anymore. And I was somebody who, when I was younger, I watched a lot of Woody Allen films. Like I watched a lot of comedy when I was younger, like basically stuff that like my parents would turn me on to. And so it's like a lot of those roles I haven't gone back to. I've just.
What about who did Rosemary's Baby?
Oh, Polanski.
Also like, out.
So to see, and I think really the character that she plays in this film specifically, this sort of like she's presented in a certain way, but then it's like she's philosophical and she's got this sort of like she's got this approach to life, and she comes up with these like lines and quips that are just so. I mean, obviously Michel Gondry, the way he wrote this role in a way, and she executes this part so well. Where it's like it was delightful to see her kind of just like in those moments delivering those lines and acting in this way, and like she contributes to sort of the like, which is a real overarching thing in this film, the sort of like childlike approach to the world that so many of these characters do, but in a way that is different from, say, how Jack Black does it, or how Yasiin Bey does it, or how Alma does it. Like how the different characters approach it.
Truly 100% a cast of characters.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
They're not there to deliver lines. They're there to like make these scenes vibrant. They're so good at it. The thing this thing does so well, this movie, Be Kind, Rewind. These are supposed to be sort of battle-scarred people originating from this area, getting bumped out by rich people. That's a constant weight on them, but it's not what they focus on. It's in the background, just so you know, the reason that they're spaced out and weird is that life is also spaced out and weird. Mm-hmm. I thought it pulled it off geniusly.
To go back to the cast, like Melanie Diaz, I was so delighted to see that she was in this. She is in one of my favorite movies of all time, the Raising Victor Vargas.
Right.
And she stole my heart in that movie because I felt like I knew her, like a friend of mine. And so to see her in this, in the way that they like danced around the romance that could be, but never brought it all the way there because it maybe would have been a little bit too corny, was awesome. The almost romance between she and Mike. You guys got that.
Yeah? Oh yeah. I mean, there's that one scene that I really like with when they bring up the mustache. Yeah. And it's just like
what a conversation.
He says mustache, and she just gets like horrified in that moment, and then like zooms into her to sort of show that it's not, you don't even see it, it's not even there. And then she's like, "You're trying to kiss me," and he's like, Suddenly, like they're all 11. They're all 11 years old in this moment.
And I am too, apparently cheesing from ear to ear, just like
totally. 100%. It's such a magical scene.
It was great, and I mean, you got to understand, Blimes, just for context. And I think we said this before.
I was going to bring this up if you didn't.
We've just been watching just like the dregs of cinema in a lot of ways for season after season.
It took us so long to break out and do a good movie. I just feel better as a human being after seeing this, comparative to like some of the awful things we've done to people.
And I was curious last night as I completed the movie. I like shed a little tear on the couch, and my girlfriend looked at me. She's like, "Are you crying right now?" Be Kind, Rewind. I was like, yes, I am. It was a really feel good movie.
Yeah,
and they did it without it being so corn, like so corn.
Everything that it covers from moment one till the end, it would be so easy for them to fall into the cheesy trap.
Oh, yeah.
Because everything they're talking about is wildly cheesy, rehashed material. But the creativity behind it is the saving grace, which is like the point of the movie too, is that like creativity can be our saving grace, et cetera, et cetera. This was a movie. Gary, I don't want to give away your joke, Gary, but Gary texted me at one point and said, "This is what The Fabelmans should have been."
This is what The Fabelmans should have been.
Lost my show. I was like, that's exactly right. Is that this is what I will now go to when it's movies about how cool movies are.
Yeah. It constantly made me curious for what they were going to do next and how they were going to pull off the next movie. And then the moment where Jack Black comes out in blackface, I thought they handled that so fucking quickly and addressed it so well. And they're like, "We're going to pull you aside now, buddy." Like,
essentially saying this joke needs to be dead.
Yes, we're done.
It needs to be dead. And like that needed to be told in that time for sure. Yeah. I mean, you can look back at a lot of stuff that you can't watch anymore.
Tropic Thunder.
Was the same summer.
Same here.
Totally. So like them addressing it then was a big deal. Probably would still be a big deal, but then was a huge deal. Yeah. And the second that we both saw it, we both were texting each other like, "Damn it. Really?"
Because
we were like so close to this being perfect. Yeah. Because we've been watching so many awful films.
You were like, "It's almost good."
Yeah, we were like, no.
Then they take him outside and you can see him dressing him down out in the street as the other people are talking. And you're like, okay, it's at least been addressed.
I love the way that it was addressed out there, because all you don't hear it. So all you see is Danny Glover in front of Jack Black for just like a few moments. And it's almost like you see him like he is explaining minstrelsy to this man.
Yes,
it's
that's
like
exactly
he's
right.
like showing him like, this is what's wrong with what you're doing.
Right.
And like, that just takes him out before everybody
And it
basically can
comes
like
from
attack.
that era. Like he was doing what he saw in films from that era,
Right.
thinking it was okay, and is like taught that day about the history. And
Right.
it never comes up again. It's awesome.
I think this could be a method that's adapted in more movies where it's a comical, lighthearted way of teaching the lesson.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's
it just depends on, I mean, honestly, 100% depends on who does it and how they broach it. And that's always the way it is. And at this point, why even try to write that into a film? I can see this was what, 2008, I want to say this came out.
Yep, 2008.
Yeah, we already covered that Tropic Thunder came out, but like we're years away from TV shows still being taken off the air now.
Yeah. Entire episodes of 30 Rock that don't exist on streaming.
That's exactly anymore. What I was referencing. Yeah, 30 Rock. Where like and you can't show those episodes because of what they did.
Like, so like Tropic Thunder and 30 Rock and all those places, like there was a really great thing in the New York Times a couple of years ago, maybe like 2 years ago, by Aisha Harris, who was an editor I worked with at one point. And she did this piece that was like, it was visuals kind of strewn through, but it was like a modern history of blackface in media. And it was not like talking about going back to the days of like your, Amos and Andy sort of stuff, but it was like, here's how it's been portrayed. And it was basically saying that even if you were trying to do it in a humorous context,
right,
like in Tropic Thunder, which is meant to skewer that character, which is meant to make,
right,
it is meant to be parodying the type of character who would take on the role that Robert Downey Jr. character does. It's like, it's still not okay.
Yeah, it just makes sure that the joke stays alive in perpetuity is the issue.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you don't, like, we just don't really need the joke for a fourth generation of human being. I'm cool with this going away. That said, I mean, we cover a lot of stuff from the past that does some wild, heinous shit. So we have to like stop every now and again and remember, like, we're not the judge of whether or not somebody is cool with that joke in this movie. So
to be clear, I don't necessarily mean this use of this method could be used when broaching the subject of blackface. The use of this method can be used when broaching other subjects that are still flying in some spaces today. Gender issues, trans issues, and like the conversation is still being had. The lessons are still being taught. This is a method that I think could help. Just like it probably did with some filmmakers at that time when they saw this,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think just the way in which this film deals with stereotypes, I find is really interesting too. All the characters we see are given some level of true humanization. The town, the people who live in the town of Passaic, New Jersey, who are represented in this, and a lot of the people in this film are extras that they pulled from Passaic, New Jersey. Like that's actually a lot of the people you see are just people who live there, which is awesome. Most of the action they're very proud of the fact that most of the action takes place on like
the art block. Inside of the art imitated life.
Yeah,
pretty fucking crazy.
So which is great. So first of all, you're taking these people who are in this situation, who are in the neighborhood, where you're like, yes, the forces of gentrification are real and they are impacting these communities. These are diverse communities that include people of color, that include people across a wide range of situations, but certainly people who are often in the same economic bracket, relatively speaking. Everybody gets a level of humanization. Mia Farrow's nephew in the movie, and his gang of toughs, they're humanized almost immediately. And then there's that like immediately in terms of just like their visit to the video store, just like, lines like, "You're lucky we don't beat up girls," and it's just like, oh, they're 11 years old, and it's like, oh, no, actually they're not there to be like a real serious threatening menace that's going to be like in a different movie.
And Bay sort of knows the language to use to be like, well, what can I do to like keep this partnership going instead of getting beaten up? I don't want to get beat up. So like, what do you guys need?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, and then they just turn into like customers again.
Exactly. Then it's
which if you've ever worked in a New York situation, like I did at the Strand Bookstore, sometimes that's really all you got left in the tank. Like you're surrounded by craziness and you just have to be like, what do you want? Here it is. goodbye. Like, that's it. That's what you have to do when you're surrounded by crazy people.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I thought it was excellent. That scene is one of my favorite scenes that they didn't even pick the Lion King and are like blaming somebody for picking the Lion King.
They blame the biggest dude in the crew, the big quiet dude in the crew. It's like, are you the big?
And he's denying it, and everyone in the movie, everyone that's watching is like, oh, he picked that shit. And then later they're like, no, he didn't.
Alma picked it. It was amazing.
Alma picked it for him.
She's like, I love that. And then it's like, well, then, and then of course
she just wanted to make the Lion King.
Yeah. It's like she was ready to take this on. It's again, there's so many wonderful choices in this film. We talked about casting, but I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about so many interesting little things in the casting. Obviously, you have some big names like Sigourney Weaver, who shows up and is just like, after you've seen that Ghostbusters rendition, that's amazing. Wow, that is such a get to have in that moment. I looked it up later. It's like you have all these alt comedy types, like Matt Walsh and John Glazer and Paul Dinello, all these comedy writers and improv people showing up in this to do small things and not even big like bits. Like the whole scene at West Coast Video in New York City when Danny Glover takes his secret research trip to analyze the DVD store. John Glazer is across from him. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. And that's the whole bit of it. It's just so that Danny Glover can make him the straight man in that moment, can make him the joke, make the jokes off of him, like no specific knowledge required.
Had Glover been in a Wes Anderson film yet at that point?
Tannenbaum's is before 2008. I'm positive of that.
I would be, yes, it was. It was very much before then.
Yeah.
So yeah. Like he, it was almost a role reprisal in a way. Like he spoke with the same kind of cadences and was dealing with a lot of like youngsters being weirdos. It was great.
Yeah.
Glover was excellent.
He was.
There was another person at the West Coast Video in Passaic. I think it was the manager, the employee, I guess the one who brings over the projector at the end saves the day. That's Kid Creole.
Oh.
Which I
thought that person was familiar.
Yeah.
And I was really like, I'm like, well, this is wonderful. Like, again, like they pull these people from interesting things. And I feel like this is a film that, I'm going to watch more than the twice I've already watched it. I definitely know that.
Most definitely.
But I feel like you're going to find these little bits in here that are great.
Man. I couldn't even try. Like, I couldn't even try to name all the cameos. I didn't recognize many at all. That's great. That's incredible.
At this point, we're usually like neck deep in arguing about a plot that had no resolution or may not even have existed. In a lot of cases, we're just making the shit up, hoping that some idea will stick to the thing. And in this, like, there's a beginning and a middle and an end to everything except for the drama with the city, because inevitably, that place is done.
Well,
and that they're going to live somewhere else. They're going to have to leave their neighborhood.
They sort of say as much at the very end with Danny Glover and Mia Farrow. At the very end, is sort of he lets her know that they were going to do this, and like it was going to be the end that night. The demolition was going to happen that night, and that leaves the film on a certain note that's bittersweet, but it's also like such a wonderful moment of people coming together. I think this is the point of the conversation where we have to ask the kind of the difficult question. Why do you think this movie didn't work for audiences, didn't bring people in, didn't get people? Why aren't people talking about this movie like we're talking about this movie right now?
I'm stumped because it's a great movie. I mean, obviously with my analytical mind of a musician in today's era, I'm like, marketing. There wasn't probably no marketing budget, but I don't know.
As I'm watching this and gaining so much appreciation for what I'm seeing in front of me, and not just because we've watched a lot of garbage on this podcast, but because I'm actually really enjoying this. You mean it is what it is. But it's just like I'm sitting here being like, how is this from the director? This is from the same director as Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Right.
Is still to this day constantly referenced and spoken about. The
Right.
same director as Dave
But how
Chappelle's,
much? Okay, this brings me to a question that I had at the time.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of people talking about, or at least being reverent about, that film versus how many people that watched that film and understood that film.
Okay.
Where it's like it's weird and it's far out, but like they're in love. That's good. You know what I mean? Like there's love stories and stuff like that that keep people interested. But the actual meat and potatoes of like the theory of his movies, it's pretty wild. And unlike say a Christopher Nolan, he doesn't like sit around and explain anything to you. It is in the moment action. If you think about the things that he's been involved in,
he's part of this sort of interesting generation of auteur music video directors who went on to make movies. And like those ideas of somebody who has been like, who's like, I have 3.5 to 4.5 minutes to convey an idea, to convey what I convey. And so like they often, and I don't have dialogue generally because I'm playing a song that has its own lyrics. So I have to figure out how best to portray that in those moments. It translates in interesting ways in a movie like Eternal Sunshine. And then I think about with this movie where I really started thinking about it was when Jack Black becomes magnetized and he walks in front of the camera, our camera that we're watching this film with for the first time, our screen starts to go wonky. And it's the little choices like that where things effects start to go through and you go like, oh, those are the choices. Those are the interesting things, right?
That somebody who makes a 4-minute film has the detailed oriented mind for. And even like further on that is just that he like, you can totally see his music video direction past in the making of the Sweded films.
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of it was just set to music and they were having fun.
Oh my God. I was like, why haven't I thought of that for my music videos? Why haven't I set up a cardboard city? You know, like
this film had a cool sense of like, by the way, these are things that are available to many people and we're making them into cool stuff.
Yes.
Cool stuff rules. And that's like, really what this movie tells you at the end. It's cool stuff rules.
Cool stuff rules. Art is accessible and people want it.
You know, we're in 2023, the modern context. I think about how, you know, there are parallels with what happens with like TikTok, what happens with Instagram Reels. There are parallels that exist where like people have parodied a thing, or they're making comedy stuff, or they're making reference stuff, or they use a trending audio that is something from a movie, and you sort of see that like people, the impulse to do that, it's natural. If they get the opportunity, and when you break down the barriers, you tell somebody make a movie and they're told it's going to cost you $1 million to make it, you go, how am I even going to wrap my head around it, even if I have a cool idea? But if I can make something on my phone in 5 minutes by just kind of thinking about what I want to do.
Wait, you're making TikToks in 5 minutes?
No, I'm not. I'm not. No, I'm not. But I'm just saying, like I can make some stuff in some of that time. But like if I have an idea, I can record it in
You know,
totally.
You can post production all you want. That takes longer than 5 minutes. But like,
I'm giving you a hard time.
And I also feel bad, obviously, for you as an artist. You're always compelled to make. Everyone's like, make TikToks. That's your way to success. Make more TikToks. Make more content. Like, I'd like to be an artist and make my music, but you need me to keep making TikToks.
I mean, I love being creative in other ways. I just prefer it in a longer format. Like I love directing and writing and creative directing and producing music videos. I love it. I love it. But I am not efficient at doing TikToks. So for that to be a necessity to keep up is I'm not proficient. Like that is a very hard ask. So thank you for your empathy around that.
I have to give it to you.
You can learn, and it's just about being hungry. It's like, Jay-Z's still rapping. He's come out of retirement 400 times for features, and he's himself, but he also meets in the middle of what's current and popular. So it's like, how hungry are you? Like, can you adapt? So that being said, I'm not complaining about the TikTok era because it is a new challenge, but like, yes, it is. Challenge is definitely prevalent. But wait, I'm very curious to know your thoughts on
Same.
why it didn't do well. Because I was stumped. I really want to know.
So, because the nature of this show, and I feel like I'm explaining this not just to you, but to the people who listen to this show and are just used to like me and Jeff yelling at each other and are really probably being really thrown off by how we're approaching this episode. People are going to be very confused by this one. I feel like I'm giving a little bit more information about our process in the sense that like we spend a lot of time fixating on minutia, what went wrong in a film, why were they made these choices, why is there a 7-minute night vision scene in this movie, stuff like that happens in films we've done on this show. Nonsense. We all agree this is a gentle, charming, funny, enjoyable, delightful film that we would recommend to other people. And by view of this podcast, we are recommending this movie unanimously.
100% Cabbage's seal of approval. First one ever given.
If they're listening and they haven't watched movies, aren't they doing it wrong? If they're listening or watching?
Well, I think some people listen. Everyone listens for the reasons. Some people listen because of the guests. Some people listen because they like that Jeff and I yell at each other. Some people
our fans aren't wildly communicative. Tell us.
Yeah, tell us why.
Are you watching these films with us?
Why are you listening to this show?
No. Don't think about that question. Don't think. No. Get that out of there.
So
it's a great concept. I was so excited to not come on here and just talk about my career path and my trajectory and my upbringing. Like, oh, we have things to talk about.
To give away a little more.
Yeah,
that's exactly why we're doing it.
That's
really the point.
It's fun. Like it's
so seeing fun. That sort of energy in this film really brought it home. Like they made this film to show you how fun it is to make things.
Yes.
And that's, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we're getting a little too deep. I'm probably cutting all this anyway, but
I'm cutting all this.
I mean, that's like why I do anything is to make it fun for people.
So
to show you that we can have fun in the face of this nonsense that's constantly surrounding us.
So to answer the question, because we spend so much time thinking about the wrong things in movies, when we come to a film like this where we're saying, we all think this is great, we recommend this, I go, well, why wasn't this movie a success? It has a decent Rotten Tomatoes score of 65%. I went back and read, critical reviews, which weren't like, this is the greatest movie of all time, but were basically mostly favorable. The New York Times, A.O. Scott was very favorable in it. I've read, an AV Club review was fairly favorable. Again, it's like nobody was saying this was better than other things, but it was saying that they enjoyed what it was. And I think it's about two things. I built a framework of a theory as to why this movie didn't work. And I think the first thing to do is to think
framework of it there, so we're not even in theory later.
I think we're getting it. I think we have the idea. I think it could be a whole research paper, which I do not have time for. Consider some of the popular comedies of 2008. Just going to rattle off a bunch of names: Pineapple Express, Role Models, Step Brothers, The House Bunny, Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Semi Pro, Zack and Miri Make a Porno.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to all of those, this film was so gentle and pure and lighthearted.
Awesome.
No sex, no violence,
no shock bait,
no fart jokes, no your mom is hot jokes.
Yeah.
It was severely lacking in crap.
Yeah. They were like,
it just didn't have any weighed down nonsense.
These other films were like edgy, subversive. They were reaching for this demographic sweet spot where it's like, it's okay to make fun of things in this way, we think. And just because we're doing it in a way, it's like, it's a little underneath. And that was the thing. And even in some of those that are done very well, I mean, there are a number of those films I named that are films that I like. But it's also some of those films are hard, as kind of in this sort of like the Apatow blow, are hard to watch now. Some of these things were incredibly homophobic, or some of these were really culturally insensitive because it was just about getting a joke in for that was edginess. And this film refreshingly does not have that. So again, this film does not feel like the comedies of its time, is sort of my first layer of this.
Yes. Okay. Agree.
It is its own thing. It comes.
It's original
on its own
time.
terms.
Sure.
It comes on its own terms. And I think for all of us, it's just like, we watch it just now in 2023, but all of us watch it for the first time for this. And we can say like, yeah, there's that. The other aspect of this is I think there's sort of it still contributes to the idea of public's tastes. And as I said before, like, Michel Gondry, the director for this movie, like he's one of the kind of indie auteurs of his generation, of a particular generation, that were by 2008 no longer really what was kind of considered cool in the indie perspective.
Right.
So keep in mind Spike Jonze, another music video director turned film director. Right. So Spike Jonze has Being John Malkovich, 1999, Adaptation, 2002. And then he went back to music videos up until 2009, where he did Where the Wild Things Are. Totally different sort of approach and a different perspective. Charlie Kaufman, who wrote Malkovich, wrote Adaptation, and wrote Eternal Sunshine, went to the director's chair in 2008 and made Cinedoc New York, a incomprehensible film that I saw in the theaters as a fan and left deeply, deeply disturbed. I think it's playing at the Roxy tonight, Jeff. I think it's.
Let's jump a cab after this.
I am not seeing that movie again. So, like, there's a generation.
Now it's my mission in life to make you watch that movie.
Can you give like a short? Can you give like, for those of us who don't have no idea what that is? Can you give like a tiny?
Okay, so Philip Seymour
just a real quick explanation.
I will give you like my 2-sentence thing. Philip Seymour Hoffman is a theater director who is making a play about his life, and it turns into a play about everything, which means building sets in bigger and bigger warehouses to the sizes of entire towns because he is sad.
Okay. Got it.
It sounds better than it is.
No. That's a movie. If there was one rapper in that movie, rapper in that movie, I'd be in trouble. But there is none, so we won't be talking about this season.
Damn it. Oh.
No, it's
leave it to Coffin to not hire a rapper.
And then Coffin like basically stopped writing movies for years.
So it's not salacious.
No.
And it's not a part of its like canon of the time.
Yeah,
not at all.
And the directors who he was part of the vanguard of, Gondry were no longer the ones who were in favor.
Sure.
Other folks in comedy,
declining interest as well,
and in indie cinema.
Right.
This is the same year, I think, as like Harmony Korine's Mr. Lonely, which is we're not Spring Breakers yet. We're not at where he suddenly becomes recognizable again. It's just like he's still like, okay, this is the guy who did Gummo and Kids, and now he's doing this movie about Michael Jackson impersonator on an island of misfit impersonators. Why did no one want to watch this movie? I could only speculate why. So that is my
so that's the Venn diagram I like that. I also think we get the benefit because we want to be at least semi like really involved with a film if we're going to cover it.
Yes.
We watch it twice. And this thing benefited way more from a rewatch. Like it's confusing and weird because the story is told with like deliberate vagueness. That like if somebody's truly lying to someone, they don't tip to the audience that they're lying, which Glover never does with the Fats Waller like lie, with this giant lie he's told that is sort of swept over a small part of the town because they believed it. His handling of that, the director's handling of it and the actor's handling of it is essentially to no sell it. Like, oh, I've been doing it so long, it doesn't really even matter to me. No one's ever acted on it. So what? They painted something. But when you watch it the second time, you see things like Danny Glover is really mad that he painted Fats Waller on the wall and is reaching for excuses for why. But it's because he's like, it's not real. Stop promoting this bullshit.
Yes.
But can't say that because, you know, it would break Mike's heart. And he, time and again in the movie, you notice the second time, especially, maybe you noticed the first time. I didn't. He's constantly protecting, like there's a shell around Mike.
Yeah.
He cannot hurt Mike's feelings because Mike they've been very special to one another. They don't really vocalize it a lot in the film. Fair enough. But that's the thing. In another type of film, you would get a scene where they were sitting on the car together and they'd talk about their feelings or something to that effect.
Too on the nose.
And then the cheesiness comes in, and I was like, well, it's Hollywood. It's not real life. This really tried to follow a weird life pattern.
Yeah.
And it was excellent. The thing is, not a lot of people are going to watch that and want to watch it again because they're disjointed. They feel like they don't really I didn't really understand the depth of the characters. Well, you weren't supposed to. You're supposed to sort of watch that with a keen eye for it, which is really hard to do the first time through. I was outlandishly stoned.
You were.
And Washington was like, what in the hell are these people talking to each other? Because there's the dialogue is layered so to make it they have their own language in a lot of ways. You don't know what the hell's going on with Jerry until way into the film. He's like, oh, don't worry about it. He's a veteran. He's been beat up, by this whole thing.
It's a throwaway line that is the quickest exposition about we have been wondering, at least on some level, why this person lives in a junkyard.
Why is this crazy person crazy? Yeah. Are they
why
even when they say things like you live in the junkyard or whatever.
Yeah.
You sort of assume this person has a job and stuff. And then all of a sudden it sort of comes to that this is a homeless veteran person who freaks people out.
Yeah.
And it makes that scene with the woman more powerful when you watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
Where the woman's really upset with him.
Yeah.
And Mike is trying to keep Jerry happy and in the store because that's where Jerry's happiest.
Except they were supposed to.
It's a layered film.
They were supposed to keep Jerry out.
They were. He spelled it backwards.
That's the funniest thing for me in this whole movie. I mean, there's so many funny things, but the funniest thing is them trying to decipher the note of keep Jerry out.
Him believing it was a Muslim chant was just outstanding. And then they actually put his chant deepen it and put it into the film as you transition scenes. That he really tried to chant it like a Buddhist chant to find peace with the situation.
Can we get a reenactment? Can you do it for us?
I can't do it. I don't remember what he said.
Legally, we can't do it. I think.
No.
I mean, we saw what happens. That they start doing those Sweden movies, and then Sigourney Weaver comes along and bulldozes all their tapes.
Yeah. That was cool. That felt like such a personification of a core memory, or such not even a personification, but just such a. They brought that FBI warning at the beginning of the movies to life. They made it in, they personified it. They made it into people and then a bulldozer. That was so good. But I do think that the layeredness and the vagueness of this film helped for me to pay attention. I have, like I mentioned earlier, severe ADHD, and I think that really worked. And other movies, it's clicking to me now. This is thank you guys. This is the first time I'm realizing this, that movies with vagueness that take a shit ton of time, the entire film, to understand who the characters are and what they're doing, work best for my brain in terms of being.
It's my favorite kind of storytelling, written or otherwise. Is sort of you are putting together a puzzle at the same time as watching this movie is really fun for me.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, why when we watch these terrible movies, we're trying to put together a fun puzzle around it and make it fun, because watching it was an absolute slog.
Right.
And we're talking to our heroes and making them watch terrible films.
I bet.
So this was such a delight.
Have you seen Severance?
I've never seen Severance.
I haven't watched it yet. It's on the list of things, but I haven't watched it yet.
If you
what is this film? I don't know much about it.
This is a TV show, so I don't want to get too far off.
Okay.
But
it's a very cool premise. Very cool premises, from my understanding. And Adam Scott stars.
Puzzle, then
I've seen advertisements for this. Yes.
Yeah. Highly.
It's out.
Yeah, it's on Apple TV.
First season, and if you don't want to be waiting on bated breath like I am for season 2, then wait until season 2 counts. But it's very good. So if you like a puzzle, I recommend.
Okay. Right.
Before we let you go, we saw all these wonderful. Someone who actually is happy to still be here. It never happens. They're just like,
I'm telling you, man, watching good movies is where it's at. I think we should watch some good films.
I mean, we have to. We can't
This
keep
was
beating
great.
ourselves up.
I don't know if I can go back to watching
shit movies.
Hot to Trot. So I don't know if I can do it again.
A fucking horse movie. No. One thing that obviously, as people who do a podcast about movies, seeing the Sweded versions of these films that we'd seen was such a joy. Ghostbusters, of course, gets the most attention. But even like I recently rewatched Boys in the Hood, and the Boys in the Hood riff is hysterical. Rush Hour 2 is an absurd movie and has its deep flaws. It's a hard rewatch in a lot of ways, but like there were some real funny bits in that. The Lion King, Driving Miss Daisy, which Yasiin Bey did not want to do and made very clear he did not want to do it.
I was very curious about that. Like there could be obvious reasons, but I was also curious about the deeper disdain.
One of the things with that movie in particular, it's actually Michel Gondry did this movie after he did Dave Chappelle's Block Party, that sort of kind of documentary about the concert. And he basically was inspired by the fact that most of the action takes place within like a city block. As a director, he thought that was like I wanted to apply that to a narrative film. Chappelle had actually been like at some stage part of the conversation about this film. I don't think had ever been formally attached to it, but had been like kind of interested in this. And it was and Driving Miss Daisy was one of his suggestions of a film to be Sweded. And I think it's exactly because of what Mos Def then goes through. It's like, I don't want to do that movie. I don't feel like that's a good idea. I don't want to be, but I think it's because of the awkwardness, because of the awkwardness of that moment. And like, I mean, I have a lot of,
have any of us ever seen that film?
Yeah, I have.
You have? I also have.
It's not a film that I think I think
I saw it when I was so young. I have no idea.
I saw it young.
It's about. I know that they are. It's kind of sad. Somewhat
extraordinarily uncomfortable due to racial stereotypes.
Yeah, it's a lot of
that part. That's why I haven't rewatched it, because I looked at the cover of it and was like, "Well, no, thank you. I don't think I'm doing this."
Yeah,
I think Mos Def is right. I think Yasiin Bey is right in saying this is a film we should just leave behind. We just leave this one behind. So this brings me to the thing I've been wanting to ask this entire episode.
Okay.
If you could Swede any movie, I'm not even going to limit it to the same VHS era. If you could Swede any movie with your friends, what movie would you Swede?
Wait, okay. Can we pick something they picked? Just asking for a friend.
No, you don't pick something that was already in the movie. No.
Okay, fair enough. Because if not, RoboCop, 100% RoboCop, always RoboCop. What do you want from me? It's RoboCop. But one they didn't cover, I'll stick with Verhoeven and I'll go with Total Recall.
Okay.
I would Swede Total Recall and it would be a blast.
All right. I almost thought you were going to say Starship Troopers for that moment. I thought you were going to say Starship Troopers.
No. I'm going to stay away from that one.
That's a wild one too.
The wild fascism movie. No.
So yeah, but why? But so okay. So the jingoistic fascist military movie. No, why? So why Total Recall? What is it about it you think would be good for Sweding?
Well, I mean, to me, the thing that was cool about the Sweding thing is that the films that were picked both had like kind of infamous scenes and like were wild. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were infamous scenes and they were big time movies at the same time. It wasn't just this was the highest grossing movie of X. It was like, this is Ghostbusters, a thing that is quoted a ton. This is Rush Hour 2, one of the most popular franchises of its time. This is, they went weirdly deep. There was a PTA movie in there. They did Boogie Nights.
Yeah, that was on there too.
Was listed in there, which I really want to see that.
Did you see Bamboozled was on the list too?
Bamboozled is on the list.
I loved that.
I wanted to stop and like write down all the movies and be like, this was the list, but the list is incredible.
Yeah. That's the next season, guys.
Yeah, we're gonna Swede.
That we just do that. We just Swede the movies.
You watch all the Swedish.
This is a good idea.
Exactly.
This is a very good idea.
All right. So that's your
Total Recall, because I think there's scenes. I mean, there's the three-breasted woman. There's like wild shootouts. There's,
oh my God.
There's things that you would have so much fun recreating with like $10 and some paper mache stuff.
Yeah.
the like alien person that coming out of the guy's chest, Quadro or whatever
Right.
his name
There's
is.
one of those like alien. Yeah.
There's that. The whole
There's
scene where the
tons.
woman takes her head off and it's Arnold
I
with
mean, like,
it's a bomb that Arnold's
you
throwing.
don't want to sweet that right now?
Oh
It
my
sounds
god.
amazing, doesn't
That
it?
sounds amazing.
Yeah, I picked it and it's just a classic killer film, and the
Yeah.
dialogue is very easily run on the fly.
Yeah.
It's just very action movie dialogue, which is great. Okay, go ahead.
All right, Blimes. What's your pick?
Dapping you on that selection. And I think for some of the same reasons, just like the iconism, the machine that is the Wizard of Oz, the diversity in the characters, the scenes that are so just iconic, written in all of our memories. It's recognizable to almost everybody, so people could be like, "Oh my God, that's how they
straight up and down. I will do this with you."
Oh, great!
A good idea is a good idea, because I've watched that film a billion times, and I was in the play as a kid.
Yeah,
as the Cowardly Lion.
Perfect.
I was the Cowardly Lion. I got laughed at by the entire school multiple times.
We could do this. And like, I've always wanted to shoot something in New York. So here's the perfect.
This is a great, like, the Wizard of Oz being sweeted is right up my alley. I love this.
Literally, and I don't want to regurgitate too much because it's the exact same reasons as you. Like, there's just the recognizable scenes that stick out in my head. Yes, this would be so fun to see how you make the witch fly on the broom in the sweeted world. And
just throw it.
You throw it. Somebody's holding out a towel.
It's GoPro time.
To lift her, like we did with our elderly dog to move her at some points. But yeah, yeah, that would be really fun. Gary, I'm
100%
curious to hear yours.
Mine is, I think you both gave such excellent picks. Mine is not going to top it, but I hope you will appreciate it on some level. It's Jurassic Park for me.
Yep.
Oh, excellent choice.
It's Jurassic Park. Because
I mean, already for all the reasons listed above.
Every single thing to do the I'm thinking plastic dinosaurs for the dinosaurs, like little toy dinosaurs, 100% on that. I think you can absolutely, all the amazing lines from that film, Samuel L. Jackson, hold on to your butts, is quoted constantly in this house. I think it's a film that is iconic, and it's sort of in the same film of
absolutely,
some of the real standouts in this movie that were sweeted. I think it would be a terrific version to add to the canon there.
I would do Billy and the Clonosaurus.
Oh God, Billy and the Clonosaurus. How about the Christmas that almost wasn't then was? Now we're just doing our Simpsons podcast, basically.
All that and more on Goodnight Springton, coming soon.
Coming never. We'll do that eventually.
What a perfect advertisement. Just build it.
just build it.
It doesn't feel like an ad. You have a great ad on your hands.
Kind of nailed it.
It's like, oh, here's our bonus Patreon content. Go check us. We'll talk about Simpsons for 45
Ice
minutes.
Tuesdays coming soon.
Ice Tuesdays is now. We do a whole parallel series where we talk about Ice-T movies. So every other week, Jeff and I go on and do one where we just talk about an Ice-T movie that we watched.
Yeah.
Damn.
He's got a lot of movies.
Ice-T has a lot of fucking movies. Holy shit.
The last one we did was Tank Girl. That was a real trip.
Oh my gosh, I haven't seen that since I was a literal child, like baby child.
Yeah, it's wild to see as an adult. I will say that.
Yeah, it is. I think we landed on liking that film for the most part, though.
Yeah, it's on Tubi right now, so you can watch it for free.
That's right, it's free.
It's awesome being like a medicated adult. I didn't know that I had ADHD for so long, so when I watched movies, I fell asleep because I used so much energy trying to focus throughout the day that I would just, I'm sitting still, I can shut down now, or lose focus. I also get to watch every film almost like I've never seen it because I don't have a memory, which is really fun. And so as a medicated adult, I'm doing more TV and film watching. This one was really fun. Thank you guys for asking me to watch.
No problem.
Tiny tidbit. That I just remembered that I don't think gives me any clout, but just as a San Franciscan, and if you know other San Franciscans, we're really proud. Danny Glover and I went to the same elementary school and high school.
Whoa.
Obviously, very different times. Very, very different.
That is cool.
But San Francisco trivia, New Traditions Elementary School, George Washington High School. and pretty cool to see great people out in the world from the city that you're from.
Clout granted.
No, I wasn't searching. I wasn't searching. I just
it's bestowed upon you.
And yet you ran smack dab into it.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
Thank you. I guess that does make me a better human.
That's right.
You're right. My smile is a little brighter now, huh?
Gary.
Yes, Jeff.
Gary, that movie was wonderful.
It really was.
And I hate to be Rachel Dratch as Debbie Downer, but what are we going to do? What are we going to do? I want this now. I've seen the greener. I'm in the greener pasture, and I'm not looking forward to stubby brown grass and roots. I'm not ready for it again.
I feel like every time we've watched a movie on this podcast, even ones that we liked, we've liked them in spite of themselves.
Comparative to this movie, you are correct. This was a good movie film.
This is a total game changer. This is a film that we genuinely loved, and not for irony reasons or ridiculousness reasons or anything. This isn't like why we love Leprechaun in Space. That's not what this is. This is a genuine appreciation for a film that we would recommend to people. And yeah, we haven't really broached this type of thing before.
So, I mean, like, the list of movies we have spoken about, I know that not all of them are going to be to this level. Maybe even none of them. I don't know.
Oh,
we have a long master list of things.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's a lot of cool rapper movies.
Yeah,
and,
I mean,
the bounds of this will be. I mean, this is a great bounty we're reaping. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I knew this was a film I wanted to watch.
The tides turn. The oceans. The tides turn, man. What's the next movie on the list?
I mean, we have options. I don't want to name all these things out loud, but like, I mean, there's so many rappers. If we're sticking to the methodology of one rapper, one episode per season, so everybody gets. There's so many people we haven't done movies for yet. Like we still haven't done. We still haven't done a Snoop movie.
Close your eyes, and put your finger on a movie, and tell me what it is.
No, that can't be the way to do it.
No, do it. This is going to be fun. Gary, just go with me on this exercise. I promise you, it's going to be awesome.
But you're trying to find joy. We're chasing the dragon here. You're risking us picking something that
I've honestly never been so addicted to something so quickly in my life.
This is reckless. All right.
I immediately love watching good movies with you and a rapper.
I don't know if the movie that we pick, if I pick randomly from a list, is going to be.
I think it will be.
All right. I'm not saying we're going to do this movie next. Okay, fine.
Okay.
Because I don't want to commit to anything just yet. But
I hear you.
Let's just see. Let's try your little game. Let's see.
I think the fates will be kind. I think the fates will be kind to us. Go.
All right. All right. Oh no, we can't do this movie. No, we can't.
Well, we can't at all.
It's on the long list, but
is it weird? What is it?
Dude, we can't do Cool as Ice.
Oh no.
The
one I'm thinking of?
Vanilla Ice.
Ice,
we can't. No.
Stars
no.
and cool. Oh no.
We can't do that one. The whole point was to watch good movies. We want to watch good movies.
We can't. No, I can't. This transition is too many, man. No way. Too much.
We're not watching Cool as Ice.
It's the Cabbages Podcast Network.